A unique medieval scroll is going on display for the first time in Jerusalem in the Israel Museum. The scroll, about 11 meters long, is one-of-a-kind illustrated travelogue depicting pilgrimage of an Egyptian Jew during the 14th century to the land of Israel. Written in Hebrew, the travelogue documents religious sites through some 130 illustrations. The scroll is named after the city of Florence because it is housed in the National Central Library of Florence. And even from abroad, the institution is still looking after this scroll.
All the travelogues we know today are written travelogues. This is the only painted travelogue we know among Christians travelogues, Muslims travelogues, and Jews travelogues. So this is a unique manuscript, very special, and as far as I know, the only one with the story that tells us through illustration, through visual language, and not textual language.
The central part of the scroll portrays the Jewish holy site, Temple Mount, which Muslims call the Haram el-Sharif, the noble sanctuary. The golden dome is built over the rock, where Jews and Muslims believe biblical Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son in Muslim tradition.
That he was Egyptian Jew, that his professional was a painter because he wrote in a small inscription accompanied the illustration of the Moses Rock. We know this place in Petra till our days. We know that he did his journey from Egypt to the land of Israel.
According to the Israel Museum, this artifact is the second oldest document still in existence, offering such a detailed portrayal of the land of Israel. The illustrations range from Egypt to Lebanon, giving an insight to what the region looked like over 7 centuries ago.
The 2025 World Road Cycling Championships will be held in Rwanda, a first in Africa, the country's cycling federation announced on Thursday. The International Cycling Union Congress, which is due to sit in Belgium on Friday, must ratify the decision before it becomes official, the International Federation said. 2 applications, one by Rwanda and the other by Morocco, were in the running, but Kigali's bid won. All other continents have already hosted the Road World Championships except Africa. The Tour of Rwanda is one of the main cycling events in Africa and attracts large crowds every year on selective courses that are typically climbers or punchers. The event, if confirmed, will boost Kigali's profile as a top sports destination in Africa.
South Africa is sitting over Britain's decision to keep the country on its coronavirus red list, a move that means travelers must pay for pricey hotel quarantine on their return to the UK.
I don't think it's fair. I mean, the last time I checked, everyone has the right to movement, and now that's basically restricting us from doing that. And I mean, each and every variant is dangerous regardless. So, I mean, I think we still deserve a fair chance to be able to travel, to the UK.
With more than 400,000 visitors a year in pre-pandemic times, the UK was South Africa's biggest source of long-haul travelers.
There's a much bigger thing at play here, is that so many people, especially here in Africa, rely on tourism for their livelihoods, for jobs. And that's just it's a matter of survival for some of them, putting food on the table for their families. And I don't know if the sort of powers that be consider all of these things, the knock-on effects.
Shut off from the rest of the world for most of 2020, South Africa is slowly starting to see a trickle of high-paying foreign visitors as infection rates fall.
South Africa has so far administered 16 million vaccines in the country. Even though this is a step forward, social justice organization Lawyers for Human Rights say they've received calls from undocumented migrants of being denied the vaccine jab.
The biggest concern is that the EVDS system, or the registration system for people to access the vaccine, is limited to people with a South African ID number, with a passport number, or with a refugee asylum seeker permit number. And I think what has been the biggest concern is that undocumented people are commonly left behind in daily activities. So whether it's accessing the most basic human rights or services like going to school, like seeing a doctor, like, banking activities.
Refugees, asylum seekers, migrants and undocumented people are estimated to make up around 5 million of the people living in South Africa. One of those undocumented migrants is Brandon Gwaza from Zimbabwe. He says being unable to vaccinate poses a huge threat to his health and right of movement.
Yeah, as a migrant, actually, without documentation, living here in Johannesburg, South Africa, it's not easy to get a vaccination, because the first thing when you get to the vaccination center that you have to produce is your documentation. The fact that they are vaccinating people is because they want to protect people. So
the Department of Health says it is ensuring that people living in South Africa have equal access to the vaccine. However, social activists like lawyers for human rights believe more needs to be done. Wandi Swandengendo from Johannesburg, South Africa, Africa News.
The Speaker of Tunisia's parliament, Rached Ghannouchi, called Thursday for peaceful struggle against a return to absolute one-man rule. Ghannouchi described the current situation as a step back a decade after Tunisia's 2011 revolution. It's a step backwards, a return to the 1959 constitution. A return to the absolute power of one man against which the revolution took place. Tunisians on Tuesday reacted to the president's plans to draft a new electoral code and appoint a transitional leadership, and to hang on to the exceptional powers that he seized in July. There is no longer any alternative to struggle, naturally a peaceful struggle, because we're a civil movement. The Tunisian people are against violence. We hope that Ennahda and the other parties and the civil society will fight to recover their constitution and their democracy. Said's actions have sidelined Tunisia's long-governing Islamist party, which accuses him of a coup and worried Islamist group around the world.